Today we're going to be talking about leaf layers, and this is important because we've been talking about photosynthesis, and in order to understand photosynthesis, we have to understand how a leaf is arranged and how it can do photosynthesis using that structural arrangement. If you don't have your notebook out, go ahead, get it out. Your title can be Leaf Layers. So our target for today, I can identify the layers of a leaf and explain the function of each layer. You'll notice we've already talked a little bit about the equation for photosynthesis. Later we're going to talk about chloroplasts as well, which we know are inside of plant cells, which are in plant leaves. So you don't have to write anything from this slide. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to show you kind of like a drawing here or a picture of a cross section of a leaf with a part labeled. And then we're going to draw that picture in our notebook. Okay, so don't worry about drawing anything on this slide yet. What this is showing you is we have a leaf here. Imagine if you were to slice open the leaf and look at it from the side. Okay, think of like a cake. If you're slicing open a cake, right? And you can say the layers on the inside, these are the layers of the leaf. So the first part of the leaf that we're going to talk about is this very top layer. It's called the cuticle. Okay. If you've ever seen leaves that are shiny, this is what makes leaves shiny. It's like a waxy covering on the outside of the leaf. So here's what we're going to draw. We're going to draw something that looks kind of like a cross section, but it's going to be very simple. So in your notebook, draw a fairly big picture of a square here because we're going to have lots of different things. See how this drawing is pretty big? We're going to have lots of different things in there. And then what I want you to do is draw a thin little section at the top. If you're somebody who likes to color code things, you could absolutely get colored pencils or crayons and color this top layer a color if you wanted, or you can just do it with paper and pencil. So we're going to draw an arrow, and I will say you are going to have a lot of stuff to write on this side because we're going to be labeling everything. So you could label some stuff on the left side, that's an option, or just write small on this side, okay? So the cuticle, you might recognize that word because you have cuticles on your fingernails. The cuticles are the parts around your nail, the little tiny skin around your nail, okay? And it's the covering to kind of protect and prevent stuff from coming inside of your finger. So the cuticle, what you're going to be writing here is that it's the waxy layer on top of the leaf. And the reason we need waxy stuff on top of the leaf is to protect it from losing water. You guys all know what happens to leaves when they don't get enough water. They shrivel up, okay, they wilt and they die. So one of the things that leaves have and plants have is this waxy layer, and this helps them from losing too much water. Some plants have a bigger cuticle than other plants if they need to make sure they've got to trap in more water. All right, now we're going to talk about this kind of greenish layer here, kind of army green, and this layer. You'll notice here the cuticle really is only on the top, okay? But the next layer here, it's on the top and the bottom. This is called the epidermis. We have an upper epidermis, that's on the top, and a lower epidermis. So we're going to take a second and draw this, okay? So on your picture, go ahead and draw some blocky cells. Remember, plants and animals are made up of cells, so all these things that we're drawing now are cells. This top part, the cuticle, this wasn't really a cell, okay? It's not alive, it's just wax on the top. It's kind of like a fat, but these are cells. So the upper and the lower epidermis, they're both the outermost layer of cells, so it's the same description for both of them. Epi means on top of, okay? So actually on your body, the epidermis, you have epidermis cells that make up your skin. So it's the outermost layer of your body, okay? In this case, it's the outermost layer of the leaf. If you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. Next up, we got these tall, skinny guys here, okay? This is called the Palisade layer. Palisade's probably a word you haven't really heard that much. I know I hadn't heard of it. So why is it called the Palisade layer? Well, these cliffs are called the Palisades, and they're along the coast. And notice how they're tall and skinny. So the scientist named them after these cliffs, right? So Palisade kind of means tall and skinny. So we're going to draw some tall, skinny cells in our drawing. So the Palisade layer is a layer of tall cells, and these tall cells have a lot of chloroplasts. Remember, chloroplasts are where photosynthesis happens. They're the little tiny green things inside of a cell. So what you need to know for this layer is that this is where the leaf is going to take the sunlight and the water and the CO2, and it's going to turn it into sugar and oxygen. So this is where our photosynthesis is happening. If you need more time to draw and write, go ahead and pause the video. All right, next up, we need to have some ways to transport sugar and water. So think about in your body, we've got ways to transport nutrients. First, they go in your digestive system, and then we transport them along arteries and veins, okay? Well, leaves have arteries and veins, but they don't carry blood, okay? And we call them something different. We call them phloem and xylem. So we're going to draw something similar to this. This is my simple representation here. You can draw something else if you want to draw something more realistic to the picture. Previously, you can go back and draw that. But this was my simple thing. Basically, we've got a whole bunch of bundle of tubes here. Think of these as like hoses that run through the leaf or arteries or veins. One of them, called the xylem, transports water, which is really important because we know plants need water and they need water for photosynthesis, okay? So this transports water. We also have phloem, which transports sugar, okay? So in this case, the xylem are the tubes on the inside. The phloem are the tubes on the outside. So once we make this sugar from photosynthesis, we need to transport this sugar to other parts of the plant that need the sugar, right? Because remember, food and sugar will be able to be converted into energy. Not all of the parts of a plant can make their own sugar. The roots are underground. They can't make their own sugar. So we're going to send some of that sugar to the roots so that they can grow and make energy. All right. So in here, we have something called a spongy layer. And the reason it's called a spongy layer is because it's got a lot of empty spaces and holes, kind of like a sponge, right? If you look at a kitchen sponge, it's got a lot of holes. So we're just going to draw some random circles, random cells in here for the spongy layer. The reason that the cells aren't very close together and why we have a lot of space in there is because this is where gases can travel really easily. So when we say gas exchange, okay, think about what a plant needs. Remember, it takes in carbon dioxide. So these are places where we can store CO2 in these little pockets where there aren't cells or inside of the cells. And then it's going to create oxygen through photosynthesis. So from these palisade layers that are creating that sugar and oxygen, then the oxygen's going to kind of come through here. It can be stored in here, or it can leave the leaf, okay? So the gases we need for photosynthesis are going to hang out here. All right, at the bottom of the leaf, okay, in this lower epidermis, we have something called guard cells. And it's exactly what it sounds like. They're going to guard, okay, and they guard against water loss, okay? So what we're going to draw, let me move my cursor so you guys can see that. So you can just draw some like U-shaped cells on the bottom. What happens is they open and close, okay? And these guard cells form these openings. They make these openings to allow gas and water to enter the leaf and to leave the leaf. So remember, in photosynthesis, we need carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. So the CO2 in the water can come in through these pores. A lot of times the water is going to come in through the roots, but CO2 and water that's in the air, water vapor, can come in through these holes. And then after photosynthesis, we're going to create oxygen, right? So oxygen can leave through these holes as well. And the guard cells determine when they open and shut, okay? So guard cells also help kind of prevent water loss by being closed. The problem is we've got to do photosynthesis, so we need CO2 to come in. And when we open the door for the CO2 to come in, some of the water ends up leaving, okay? So it's a problem. That's why we have the cuticle, but the guard cells are there to kind of help regulate the gas and water leaving and entering. The openings, the little holes, those are called stomata. Okay, so that's the opening formed by the guard cells. So sometimes you'll hear stoma. Okay, that's just one. Stomata is plural. So stomata are the little holes that the guard cell forms. Okay, it's the openings. So I want to show you just a picture of a leaf, just the top of the leaf, so you can see these guard cells and these stomata openings. So here's a picture. This is the top of a leaf under a microscope, okay? So you'll notice, right, our guard cells here, okay? They're guarding the entrance, right? They're going to be in charge of opening and closing. You can see that some of them are closed more so than others, right? And then the openings here, where stuff goes in and out, that's called the stomata. And that's where we're going to end for today.